You're right, I'm done, in fact. That was it. I have to reshuffle my slides a bit. You've been listening to the music. You know, music is a big part of my life, and when Claudia said we're only a little crazy, she's not right. We're pretty crazy when it comes to music, and you'll notice this over the day. Why did we play this old Eagles song? I was wondering, really, we all know the song. Do you know what it is about? It's about drugs. I had to find that on the internet. The Hotel California is you doing drugs and not getting out. Now, we'll talk about the new drug. And the new drug is what we call the internet as it has developed. You know, the internet as it was, as an open and free place for crazy people like us to do great stuff, has changed quite a bit. And I'm going to talk a little about that and what that means in terms of opportunity, because that's, I guess, what we're here for. There's a line in there, I know it's meant differently, and you just heard it. It says, we're all just prisoners here of our own device. Right? Of course, it's meant in a different way, right? We're prisoners of ourselves. But I guess it's a good way to say we are prisoners of the devices that we use. When you look what happened to the internet, to this open, crazy place, it has developed into a bunch of silos of companies trying to take control over everything we do on the internet. They're all trying to do the same things when you think of it. They're trying to make us use their devices as much as we can. They're trying to sell us everything that is digitally sellable. And if they can't sell it, they make it very hard to get it. I mean, you may like ad blockers. I really like ad blockers, right? But the move of Apple to now allow ad blockers on the iOS platform is, of course, an anti-Google move, and not because they want to improve our lives. They may do that at the same time, but they do it for selfish reasons. Now, if it's good, it's good. We don't care about the reasons. But that is, of course, their course of action overall for everything that they do. And that usually is not a good world when you're depending on very few providers, because they want to control everything. They en masse capability, or let's call it money. They don't pay taxes, right? They know how to do that. That is not very good. When the pile of cash that Apple sits on can easily make them a telco tomorrow if they want to. Right? They're already taking away bits and pieces of the telco business. They're now also leasing out the phones. You know, they will have a soft SIM, so this little control chip of the wireless carriers will go away. And then you can switch carriers, and then eventually you probably don't need a carrier anymore. These silos are also not very business-friendly when it comes to selling through a channel, because what they want is control over the end user. Right? They want our attention of each individual person in the world. So having a channel in the middle that gets a slice of the value creation is not part of that business model. Some are changing. In fact, Microsoft is here as a sponsor. Isn't that great? It's the Azure guys. Right? Thanks, Pasi, where are you? There he is. So that's the Microsoft guy and his friends. At an Open-Xchange summit. How is that, right? That's awesome. That is really cool. And Microsoft is in the process, and sorry about this, Pasi, is in the process of deciding if they want to be channel-friendly or not. Because with some of the business, they have to compete against Google and Apple, and that's a direct business. No space for channel. And with other parts of the business, Azure will only work with partners, like us, like you. And we've launched a customer in Finland. We're just starting a big thing in the US that we'll also be talking about on putting Open-Xchange on Azure as a delivery vehicle. That's interesting, right? So I wonder how this plays out. And Pasi does too, I know that, because we discussed this. Microsoft is a big, big crowd of people with different things to do. But this here is almost the doomsday scenario of the internet when you think of it. If they have it their way, this is going to happen. This, by the way, is the Prime Minister of East Germany. You're now in East Germany. If you don't know, this is East Germany. It kind of shows when you look outside, right? This guy was meeting this guy. This is Ronald Reagan, right? Sort of meeting the guy that more or less brought him down during his tenure. we found two things, I guess. We found that those companies, those silos, want our data. Data is the new currency. Data is the new oil. Or almost like Matrix. You know the movie Matrix? You know what the plot was? That people were more or less batteries for the machines, right? We're the data batteries for those machines, right? They're sucking the data out of us, and because that's how they monetize, because that's what they use to create their business. What you're losing is freedom. And I was born in East Germany, not in Berlin, but in Leipzig, about 100 years ago or so. And I know the feeling. I know the feeling when you feel like you may be watched all the time. It is a loss of freedom because you behave differently. Because it's almost like brain control. And we have that same thing because we cannot live without our devices, right? These devices, and we kind of know that these devices know everything. I mean, how do you feel about giving your mobile phone unlocked to somebody else? Go about it, or your browser history, and that kind of stuff, right? Then you go like, not really. But not only that, it's changing behavior when you know that you're being watched. You're behaving differently, and that is a loss of freedom. And we spend millions of lives, at lots of years, to win this freedom, against the governments that were taking away our freedom back in the day. Right? And we're here at a place where the wall was brought down, where people were freed to join the freer world. We are the freer world. We're not totally free, but quite free. Much better than East Germany, I can tell you, out of my own experience. And we're losing it on the internet. And that is pretty terrible. But not only that, we're also, except from the freedoms that I mentioned, we're also losing business. Because if these guys have it their way, then there will be no channel. And a lot of us in this room will be out of their jobs because there's nothing left to do for us. When you see that development, in terms of the vertical integration, how much can you produce to deliver a digital product, that becomes less and less. And with many of the things that you have built, you may be demoted to being a reseller because now you have to buy something from the big guys and resell it. And you get a margin, and guess what's going to happen with the margin? It's going to shrink away. Because why would they want to give you a margin? If you have been in the Apple reselling business, right? All the new products are now in the Apple online and offline stores first for a couple of weeks. And then what's left is given to the channel. And that's going to happen in the digital world just the same. Now, Claudia mentioned a few things what have happened in this boring year between the Munich summit. Who of you has been at the Munich summit? Great. This is growing the family, isn't it? We're not going to make this bigger, by the way. I think that's about the right size. We have about 500 people or so that said that they were coming. It's always tempting to make things bigger and bigger. We're not going to make it bigger. We want to keep it this size because it's almost like a family event, isn't it? I mean, you kind of re-meet all these people, but then there's also enough new people here to keep it interesting. We have 25 sponsors, unbelievably many interesting sponsors. I mean, when you walk the floor downstairs, you're going to see representatives of parts that are needed to build a business for this industry, the best of the best. I mean, you just walk up and down the aisles, you're going to find what you need to build your digital business. They're all here. And they're paying half the bill. Thank you for that. But that's just a side note. And I'm not saying it because they're paying the bill. I'm saying this because we want this event to be this industry family event where you can get the ideas of what to do in this changing market that we're discussing here. And I've been thinking a lot what to do with Open-Xchange. Actually, I've been thinking, why do I do Open-Xchange? Because I'm spending, I'm getting old, so I'm running out of headroom, right? So why am I spending my years? You ask yourself that at a certain age, I guess. I'm 51 now, so it's kind of, you can see the end of things coming. So you go like, okay, how am I going to, rather sooner than later for me, I'm afraid, the way I live my life, a little crazy. So what are you doing? And why are you doing things? What motivates you to get up in the morning? And you must have an idea that drives you, because doing business is not always pleasant. It's pleasant a lot, but sometimes it just isn't, right? So why do you do things? Who knows what this is here? It's the people's capsule of the SpaceX program. It's called Dragon. So this will be on the nose of the Falcon rockets and carry people to Mars. A crazy guy by the name of Elon Musk, who also builds nice electrical cars, who puts solar on roofs, he also builds rockets. Now, why does he do that? Because he's saying, humanity, mankind, and animals and everything will eventually be extinct on this planet because something bad is going to happen. Either we do something bad to the planet and bring ourselves down, or a big rock hits us, or whatever. Right? So having all your eggs in one basket, all the people, everybody on this one planet, is just way too high a risk. So to save humanity, eventually, we have to have enough people on another planet to hedge our bets. So he does nothing less than saving mankind in his project. And this is why he does what he does. He's the CEO of 2 companies. He's the chairman of the board of another company. He's really busy. And he's rich. I mean, really, really rich. He doesn't need to do this, but he's doing it anyway. Because that is what wakes him up in the morning, and this is why he gets up and works hard to get things done. So what are we doing? I want the internet to remain free and open, because I really enjoy this place. It's just fantastic, and I enjoy the industry. I mean, just think of, I think we don't even know yet what the industry has done to the development of humankind. What the internet has given us in terms of access to knowledge and all the good stuff, sort of the Wikipedia side of the internet. It's given us the silos, but it's given us a lot of good stuff. And we need to make sure that this stuff remains good. And we need to make it better, and we need to make it pleasant to use, to create an alternative to these things that I've been showing before, and to force these guys to also become good. Open source has done that in the past a lot, right? Open source, when you think of it, the internet is here because of open source, full stop. No crazy Finns developing Linux, MySQL, Dovecut, but no open internet. If the internet was run on SNA or NetBIOS, sorry, Passy, I had to say that, it wouldn't be open, right? It would be controlled by a company, and that company would have reaped the benefits of that. Now, it's all based on open source. We can build great hosting companies on that. Lots of you here in this room have done that. Taken this open source software, helping yourselves enhancing it, creating services that didn't exist before at a very competitive price. And we're paying nothing for the service that we cater. And that was possible because the stuff is built on open source. Now, we try to take that further, because now as everything goes on the internet, everything is moving into the cloud, we have to make sure that the cloud stays open or maybe becomes open again. And putting pressure, like Linux did, create the ability and created a lot of pressure on the established players to play along with it. And open source is the tool to make this happen. I mean, things like we're in Germany, right? Let's talk about VW. You have a proprietary closed software stack running in a car. I mean, a car is a computer on wheels. That's it, pretty much, with an engine, either electrical or still burning fossil fuels, but that will go away. Now, how could that not be detected? I mean, if it was open source, it wouldn't have necessarily been detected, but at least there was a chance for third parties to look at it. So, for example, an audit of a government would have discovered that they're doing something bad here. Or the guys developing this would have thought we can't fool around here because it's so visible, it's transparent. So we have to behave differently, and we won't be doing it. So I'm saying, if this would have been open source, this wouldn't have happened. And I think everybody within VW would now hope for this to not have happened, because it may bring the whole company down. Now, to innovate, and that's what we're here for, to innovate, we have to really compete with the proprietary solutions out there, and we have to create a better experience than there is in the proprietary world. And for us to be able to do that, we have to do the same thing that Elon Musk does, building rockets and cars. We have to integrate vertically in the stack to control this whole thing, to be able to put the pieces together and enhance them. And that is, of course, important open source software infrastructure components, like Dovecut, implementing the best IMAP server there is, owning the market, and PowerDNS, owning the secure DNS market. We need secure DNS to build trustable networks. And that's why we had to bring these things together to innovate email, to innovate encryption, to create a better user experience. This is what it's all about, because otherwise people won't be using it. The end consumer does not care, if it's open source or not. I mean, I don't know, my daughter is here. She's, yeah, you knew that was coming, right? She doesn't care much if Snapchat is open or not or whatever, right? She's spending her gigabytes on Snapchat every month. I know that because I pay them, right? And I pay them happily, no problem. But she doesn't care about what's happening with the data in there. She will care in a couple of years. No matter what daddy says, she's not listening anyways, right? But, in a couple of years, if something bad happens to Snapchat, or Snapchat changes the business model selling the wonderful pictures that everybody posted on Snapchat, she will learn, right? And remember that. Daddy said. So they will eventually learn as they get older that things are probably a little more complex than just using stuff. But what we have to do is convince the consumers to use the better stuff, and the only way to do that is just to make it better. This is why we're doing all this stuff that's on this slide, together with our partners, and with stuff that we control. This is why we got together with Dovecot and PowerDNS to be able, to make these things work together properly and innovate the products in this market. That's the only way to go. So we have to push forward. This is why we have to grow, Claudia. This is why, we have to make enough money to be able to pay you and Jonathan and all these expensive guys, Hendrik down there, the Hühnleins who made all this setup here, and Christian Mittermeier, the great cook. They're all fantastic people. They're part of the family, but also, they have a family, right, and have to pay their bills. So we also need to make money. That's why we're here too. But the only way to do that is to create compelling stuff, like Dovecot, like our app suite, like PowerDNS. That was us on stage, remember, Claudia? And at World Hosting Days when we announced this. Now, what happened to Open-Xchange? Claudia was already mentioning this, taking the steam out of the slide. Here you see the history of us. Something incredible has happened in terms of our growth. We've been growing quite well over the years. So average growth was around 40%. We were the Deloitte Fast 50 winner in 2013 and all that great stuff. But our growth has accelerated, even percentage-wise. We're growing around 70% this year. My board is here, I shouldn't say that, 60%. That's the number I give them. It's probably going to be 70, I'm afraid. Because we offer something that the industry needs, and the industry is starting to understand more and more that they need control over the services that they deliver. And this is why we're successfully selling stuff. And the names of the companies we're selling to, and many of you are here, and I thank you for the trust you're giving us, because it's a big deal of trust that you're giving us. We're building a long-term relationship. Open-Xchange has yet to lose a customer. We have not lost one single customer, and we don't want to. Right? We want you all to remain in the family. We're marrying for life here, right? Remember that. Challenge us, because we want to make you happy. And sometimes we screw up like everybody else, but we're doing our best to fix that. The industry is also recognizing that. If you know, we were sort of the crazy little outlet. This is 2012. This is an analyst specialized in carrier-grade email, and you have the 4 quadrants here, and you want to be up here, right? And the big guys are up there. It's Oracle, OpenWave, Critical Path, Microsoft down here, because in carrier-grade email, it's only on Microsoft really only plays on the business side and not on the consumer side. And Open-Xchange was down there. So we were sort of the young challenger, not so important. Now, as time went by, 2014, 2015, you see us rising in this chart. And that is, we're not all the way up there because we're delivering a little broader application set. We have 180 million users on our app suite front end. Dovecot, I don't know how many users we have. It has 60% of all email servers. It's about 3 million servers or so, but we don't know how many users are on there. So these numbers come from somewhere. But what you see is the dynamics, and that is, I think, what's most important. So you can expect a few more great things from us. We got a little help recently, and I'm very grateful for that. I mean, really, it was dead at 9/11, right? When Homeland Security was invented and all that stuff. It only took a while for it to realize that it is dead, right? And now the EU has decided that it may, in fact, not work. Now, what does that mean? What does that mean? Think of it for a moment. And what did Safe Harbor mean? Let me explain that real briefly. It meant that US companies could say that they adhere to the laws, to the privacy and data protection laws of the EU countries, each individual one of them, by self-certification. You just say, yes, I'm good. Done. I'm Google, I'm good. And that was good. Now, of course, when you're running a company in the EU, in Germany, for example, you're personally liable to adhere to the data privacy laws. So if Karsten, our COO, and Monica, our CFO, who runs also the HR department, loses data, Karsten and I go to prison, Monica not. Oh, that's bad. I have to change that. But so she has to come, right? Otherwise, it's unfair. So you're personally liable for that. Now, so if I, as a company, now use a service from the US, so far it's been legal because they're good, right? Now a court has said, no, they're not. Now it becomes complicated, and we've read a lot of things about it. But what it really means is, guys, it's not that simple. You need to think a little harder on what you do. And a lot of you have been thinking that all along. And you have realized that we have to build alternatives that are trustable and transparent and that adhere to the local laws, and that we don't have sort of this global law made in the US. It's probably a good law, I don't know, but we're still nation states and we have the right to make our own laws. And the one size fits all, no matter where you're coming from, also in the other way around. I'm not at all saying that our secret services are any better than the ones in the US. They're all the same. But we do have stricter laws on this. And we have to adhere to these laws. And so the opportunity that this creates is huge for you all, because now we need to create services that adhere to this law. Just yesterday, I had one of these great moments in business is when you have been working on a customer. I mean, that's probably the longest sales cycle we had in Open-Xchange, because it started in 2007. When Frank and Stefan, they flew to, to London, and then you go west, where Vodafone sits. And he met with Oliver Maus. Oliver? There's Oliver. Oliver Maus, he was at Vodafone at the time. He called us in. He said, come, you've got stuff I'm interested, show me. And then the second time we met, he said, by the way, I'm leaving Vodafone. So here goes our sales cycle. Well, he went to become the CEO of 1&1. So that kind of turned out well for us, right, that relationship. They are not just a great customer, but also an investor in the meantime into Open-Xchange. So it's all shiny and rosy, but except for the Vodafone deal. And then we came back, and a couple of you here in the room know the history because you've been part of it. But only now Vodafone Germany finally decided to give us their mail and cloud storage for us to run it for them and make it a great experience. And Bart, here in the room, Bart, show yourself, brought the contract yesterday. 5,000 pages. Well, actually, he sent it before, so it's digitally sent in a safe cloud, but still, for some reason, Monica wanted paper, I guess. I don't know. It's maybe for more historical reasons. And we took a few pictures. That was just awesome. We also had René Obermann talk yesterday night. So we had Vodafone and Deutsche Telekom kind of on stage at the same time. He was still like having a hard time adapting. He was still a Deutsche Telekom guy. Yeah, that was really funny. But the reason Vodafone Germany did this is that they realized to be taken seriously in the German market, which is the biggest market for Vodafone, I learned yesterday. They cannot just resell a Dropbox or something, right? They have to deliver trustable services. And they had to actually sort of make that decision as a country organization inside this. Vodafone is the second biggest wireless carrier after China Mobile, but that doesn't count because they are a captive market. So the biggest in the real world, I would say. And of course, lots of countries and headquarters and what have you, making decisions that just didn't work for Vodafone Germany because they know about this, like you all do. And they just said, we're not going to do stuff that does not comply to the way we're thinking here and to the market that we're catering. Now, creating trustable services, how do you do that? I mean, you can say, I'm Vodafone, trust me, right? Because I'm great. I'm Apple, trust me because I'm great. And actually, telcos, hosters have a pretty good brand recognition. René was saying yesterday that the unsupported brand recognition for Deutsche Telekom was 98%. So who's the big telco in Germany? Deutsche Telekom. But 98% know that. That's not so bad. So the brand is known. Of course, it's always great to do bad press about carriers, right? There's always stuff happening, and so people like doing that. But when you ask them who do you trust, carriers and hosters and service providers in general get pretty good marks. That's an asset. Of course, one that you have to earn and keep and make better. And the best way of doing this is creating trustable services, and services where you don't really require much trust from the people. And how do you do that? How do you create services where people don't really require to trust you as the provider of that service? This is what you do. You make sure that the service you're catering is available from other service providers as well, that people can move their data from A to B, and if they don't find a service provider they like, that they can become their own. Because maybe you're only trusting the IT guy that you know for 30 years around the corner that has been doing your PCs all the way, and you've been in school with him, and you're saying, as much as I like Vodafone, but hey, this is my company's data, that's my heart, that's everything, that's my brain. I want you to run it. And of course, he can only run such a service if the software of such a service is available to you. Where's the software of Gmail? That's unavailable. And even when the software is available, you still have to trust the maker of the software, us. Why would you want to trust us? Because Rafael is such a great guy, he's good fun, he's a little crazy, he drinks a lot, that kind of stuff. Good reasons for tonight, for sure. Right? But when you walk out here, Rafael is just a human being, and if somebody walks up with a big check saying, please put a backdoor into Open-Xchange, Dovecut, Power DNS, they'd be controlling quite a bit of the internet just by that. All the traffic of the internet goes through DNS, right? All the email, 60% of all email goes through Dovecut. It's probably more than that. You're like, okay, that's a worthwhile target. And everybody has a price, to be honest. And so do I. Okay, give me this island on Hawaii, an island, open source, whatever, I don't care. So the only way to make sure that this does not happen, that I don't spend the rest of my life on a Hawaiian island, is for the software that implements the service to be open source. Because then people won't be giving me an island in Hawaii for it, because it will not last for very long. Because people will be finding that backdoor that I put in. So it's just not a good deal. So they say, okay, I give you a coffee if you do, and I say, well, I pay for my own coffee, go home. So to make sure your service doesn't need trust, simply do that. And make sure when you use a service to check these things. Is that service really that? Does it comply? Can I really get my data out of here? Are there more providers? Is the software available? Is it open source? Simple as that. And when you do that, you can put a little mark next to your service saying, don't trust me, don't trust my word for it, because here is the proof that you don't need to trust anyone and still have a trustable service. Now, that's one good step. Another great step, and actually we tried to have Ed up here, but he's in Munich, virtually, of course, today with our friend Søren, interviewing him on stage, so he was not available to talk. But we have Sarah Harrison coming this afternoon, so make sure you catch that. Ed said something very smart, and he's an incredibly smart guy. He said something smart at an interview he did with Neil deGrasse Tyson. He's an astrophysicist out of New York. He runs the Hayden, whatever, planetary center or something, and he's a very good entertainer. He's a great guy. And they were discussing, Ed and his life and stuff, but also they came into the topic of why don't we detect alien intelligence by listening to the radio of the universe, or at least of our galaxy, right? Or maybe of our local cluster. And it's quiet, right? SETI has been doing that, and some of you probably had it running on your PlayStation 3s or PCs, right, to help them find these signals, and nothing was found. So we're either alone, or, and that was the clever thing that Ed said, civilizations become very clever very quickly, and they will encrypt all their traffic. And good encryption means you cannot recognize it. Good encryption is not distinguishable from random signals. And this is why we don't hear the aliens, because you're only stupid for a small amount of time. Right? And we're in the middle of the stupid phase. We're really stupid at the moment. Well, we're really stupid in many ways, right? But we're also stupid in this way. So to advance civilization, and that's a goal, right? That's not so bad. So I wake up in the morning, I'm here to advance civilization. That sounds grand, all right? Let's do that. Also, another anecdote, I have to tell you that's real fun. We're dealing with a military organization in France that has also realized, a government organization, that sort of being the military of France, maybe you should make sure that the services you use and provide really work. You know that the lawyers of France, and actually Chabot is here. Chabot, where are you? There you go. He's the CIO of the organization of the French lawyers that is using Open-Xchange to give lawyers service that they can use to securely communicate. Makes a lot of sense, right? All lawyers should be doing it, all government organizations should be doing it. In fact, everybody should be doing it, but it's happening. Now, the military CIO is a general. And so Thomas, where are you? Down here, Thomas, he runs the Central European Organization and lives in Paris. When he writes an email to the CIO, the email starts with Mon Général. And I said, that's my second goal in life. I want to be Mon Général when I get an email from you. So I said to the team, we had sales and marketing meeting, I said, when I catch any one of you using Apple Mail, you have to call me Mon Général for 1 month, right? You need to use AppSuite in the browser, not Apple Mail. Evil. Now, what can we do to advance civilization? Right, to take that next step. I mean, the trustable services thing kind of jibes well. We're an open source company, so you got all that. You can build trustable services. Next step is make them hard to crack. Or really make them maybe impossible to crack, which is a long way coming. I mean, we're not there yet. And that's another big reason why we brought together these experts here that you see on the slide. Because the only way to do that is to connect the bits and pieces that provide the data, transmit the data, or store the data. Because to make them safe, for example, you have to make sure that the email on the hard drive, on your server, is encrypted at rest. And you say, yeah, that's obvious, right? But you have to do it, right? It has to be in the product. You know, so our people in ESPO have been coming up with a way where you can actually define how you want to encrypt, how many keys you want, key per user, key per server, whatever, to make them even more secure. And that's a feature that we're putting into Dovecut, so everybody can have it, so that you can encrypt your email at rest. So second step, of course, email in transit. I mean, we do all the SSL stuff and so forth to make sure that the actual transit cannot be snooped upon. But still, of course, you get copies of those emails sitting on servers that you don't control as the email flows through the world. Right? So now how you make sure that at least the content of that email is not readable by third parties by encrypting the content of the email, you know, with a key that you have. And we've had that technology forever. It's called PGP. Who of you is using PGP encryption? And we're the geeks, right? And this is maybe 10%. Why are we not using PGP encryption? It's so damn hard to use. It sucks, and it doesn't work on my phone. And I'm lazy. Right? I don't want that. And then I get a mail from one of you crazy guys, and I can't read it. Because I may have given you a key, but I forgot my password, so I can never read it. I'm calling you, please resend unencrypted, please. You know, it sucks. So we have to make it easier, right? Sarah Harrison told me that, in fact, at World Hosting Days. We had a little chat, and I was saying, how can I help you guys? She said, make encryption easier. I'm a journalist, she said. You know, I want to do my job. I want to write. And now for me to write, you know, I have to do all this crazy stuff. And next morning I wake up, I've forgotten half of it. You know, I don't even know how to do it. So make it easy. So how do you make it easy? You hide the complexity. You take the complexity away from the people and let the machine do it. Now, for this to be trustable, of course, if the machine does it, you're also trusting your keys to the machine. The machine has to be trustable. But remember my previous slide? Fully transparent stack. You need to trust the guy that runs the machine. Right? So now, if you trust no one, you run the machine yourself, if the software is available, if it's open source, because then you can even look into the software and see what it does. So we got that covered. So now we can put the whole key management stuff on the server. Now we have to make sure that we have proper, undestructible key exchange. And how do we do that? We do, Bert, raise your hand, Mr. DNS. Peter?
He's on the booth.
Oh, he's on the booth? Ah, there's Peter. No, Peter's there, Peter is not there. Well, anyway, that's good. So Peter, Bert, they are the Power DNS guys. And they hang out here. They're going to be on stage. You're going to have a lot of opportunity to talk. What we need is a trustable, secure DNS for key exchange, and that's called DANE and DNSSEC, and that is technology that's available, and Power DNS runs 90% of that. Right? How cool is that? So now we have a way to create trustable key directories. Open protocols are available to that. We just implement those. Right? Power DNS does what it needs to do. You can create a DANE, a secure environment. You can look at how that goes at mailbox.org. You know, if you're here until Friday night, 5 p.m., the Mailbox.org and Tor party starts. Right? You want to be there. It's going to be awesome. Sarah's also going to be there. We're going to talk about that stuff. It's really going to be awesome, so be there. These guys have a service called Mailbox.org based on our stuff. And they've made it secure this way. And it is really, really cool. And all of you can do that. And I know some of you are on the process of implementing that. It is hard, technology is hard and you have to do it right, but we've got the tools now. We bring the tools together and we can help you create that solution. But we do not want to limit ourselves only to us. Because that is creating another monopoly, open source or not. Right? We don't want the world to use us only. I mean, in my dreams I do, to be honest, right? You see I'm a revenue curve, my board is happy with me, right? But it's just not the way it works. If you want an ecosystem, you need other people that are trying hard and may come up with smarter ideas. But the great news is it has to be open source. We defined that already, right? If it's great, we can incorporate that. We can collaborate. We can throw our stuff together like we've done here to enhance things. So another thing that we will be announcing this afternoon is trusted email services. It's an initiative by Open-Bit, which is an open source Verein here in Germany. People that try to improve the way we use open source in business as a non-profit organization. And they will be announcing what's called trusted email services, where we're defining what a secure email service looks like and how it can collaborate with the other ones out there, the key servers that we're setting up, so that it is federated, so that setting up one can connect to this whole world of others, so that we make PGP simple for everyone, including our competitors. And they are, in fact, part of that consortium. It's not only us. But, there were bits and pieces missing, and we've developed them, and we put them out there today under an open source license. And you're going to hear Miko talk about this afternoon. And Peter Höbel is here. Peter, I know you hate this. Raise your hand. Where are you? So he's so shy he's not raising his hand. There it gets pointed out. There he is. Peter is the geek that implemented all this. So you can talk to the guys that actually made it happen. Of course, you can use PowerDNS and Dovecut and AppSuite for it. It will make your life easier implementing that, but you don't necessarily need it. You can use other tools as well. So, that is a lot of the reason why we got together, because we want to advance civilization to become unsnoopable. This is really what it is about. And in two ways, government surveillance, the agencies in all countries are the same. So it's not, I'm not saying that the BND, which is the German NSA, is any better than the NSA. Right? It's just that the NSA has more means and better techies, right? So the BND is really jealous because they got all the good toys, right? Prism and stuff. I want that too. That's one reason. But the other reason is, of course, we want to make sure that honest business models are being implemented. Because by encrypting the data, you also destroy the business of you being a battery, a data battery to the providers, because that data is unrecognizable to the provider. So now we've pulled the plug on that business model. And I think we have to. I think we really have to, because owning, controlling your data is the most important task we have at hand. Because if we don't, 1984 was just a prelude to something much worse. And I know the feeling, because I'm a GDR guy, right? And I know the feeling, and I don't want this to ever happen again. It is a lot of opportunity in here for us all, because to do this, we have to get to work and implement these services, to make them available to everyone. Implementing an honest business model, which means, making people pay for the service that they use. That's the normal thing, right? And they will be using them because they are better, they're more pleasant to use, and because people will more and more understand that they shouldn't be using the other ones. So take this example of Elon Musk that I mentioned before. Right? You have to have a reason to get up in the morning. And the older you get, the more you need that, right? Because you're running out of juice, right? You better make sure it's you do it for a reason, so that eventually your children can say, he was an idiot, he was calling me in front of the audience that I'm using Snapchat. But still, he did change the world a little bit for the better. That is important. I think that's important for our souls. We need to do that. And while we do that, we might as well make some money and live a good life, right? So that we are still able to pay wonderful people like Claudia to help us for this event. So thank you very much.